If someone starts crying in front of me, I feel like they're trying to manipulate me and I don't buy it.
Or maybe you judge it in them because you judge that in yourself.
Perhaps. I mean, it's my human experience, right? And it's my bias.
Right.
But I'm trying to think of the very few scenarios in which I would ever cry. And I'm thinking, would it genuinely be because I feel so much pain, or if I think it could benefit me or help me? Would I be trying to manipulate somebody? Now, that's not something I'd ever do because it's not my personality and mental frame. But
crying is just a physiological reaction to express pain and grief that allows us to release this and to come back to homeostasis.
It's manipulation.
It's just, well, it can be.
It's don't attack me
but
anymore.
It's also a physiological response.
Oh, completely. But it's don't attack me anymore. It's I'm the victim, don't attack me anymore.
Be.
Yes, I cheated on you. It's a shield. And so when we talk about what does vulnerable mean, I feel like I'm being vulnerable now when I'm explaining things extremely logically.
You are.
That's as vulnerable as I can be. I cannot be the kind of person who's going to cry. But once again, this is my mental model. I haven't instilled.
But is that what it means? Vulnerability, cry?
I guess vulnerability.
What about admitting your weaknesses?
I'll admit my weaknesses
what
right
are
now.
your weaknesses?
Then this is so interesting because I will tell you. No, it is because I'll tell you I'll admit my weaknesses, and I will. Mm-hmm. But now I have to try and identify some because in my mental framework I don't have weaknesses.
Right.
So now it's like, okay, I am prepared to admit where I'm weak. Where am I weak? Well, I've tried so hard for so long to make sure I'm not weak anywhere. And if I am, I've compensated so heavily in some other way, I don't fail. So it's like, where am I weak? I'm that guy who does not fail. It doesn't matter what scenario anybody's life is in. It doesn't matter if you get dumped into jail. It doesn't matter if you're going into war. It doesn't matter if you're bankrupt. Whatever it is, if someone says Tate's on your side, you feel good. Oh, Tate's here. Ah, Tate, okay. Yeah. He can't even swim, but he's here to he's the lifeguard. Tate doesn't fail. I can swim, but it's an example, right? So I do not fail ever. So it's very hard for me to identify weaknesses because I feel like they've all been ruthlessly, I think I've rooted out any weakness or I've compensated so heavily so long ago. I don't see myself as a weak person. I don't see myself as a person who can fail. People said to me in jail, how did you handle that? What else can I do? Not handle it? What does that look like? We're gonna bang my head on the wall like a dummy? Am I gonna have a breakdown and just be a pile of mush? All you can do is handle it. So we're talking about vulnerability. I'm being as vulnerable as I can, but I can't even honestly sit here and tell you a weakness I have because in my mind I have no weaknesses. And perhaps that's delusion. Perhaps that's perhaps it's delusion.
Yeah.
But
a useful delusion is what you're saying.
It's brutally useful.
Yeah.
And when I teach this or when I talk about this, there's a lot of men who perhaps want to adopt it, but the mistake they make is they don't have the real world experience to back it up. I don't want people to be completely lose their minds.
Yeah.
We're not talking about that, but we're talking about the fact that I can name so many scenarios in my life where I was supposed to fail and I did not fail. It's brutally realistic, it's brutally logical, it's built on competence, it's built on real world accolade and achievement. Mm-hmm. Everything I've ever wanted, I have achieved and I have gotten. I have never failed at anything I've ever wanted, ever. So how am I going to wake up and say, oh, I've got this weakness, that weakness, when I have a 100% success rate? Mm-hmm. 100%. There's never a girl I wanted I didn't get. There's never a car I wanted I didn't drive. There's never a scenario where I said, I want to get through this, I didn't get through it. I've never failed. So of course I'm going to sit and say, yeah, I would love to tell you my weaknesses. I can't think of any. I don't know.
Right, but are you being humbled right now? Is this whole series of events humbling you?
It's taught me things I already knew. I know you can't be bigger than a justice system. I was saying Icarus for a reason. I knew they would come for me. I know I'm only human.
But you're not do you?
I do. I'm just a very good one. I'm just a very good one.
Is there somewhere inside you a belief that you're invincible? Like you can't get got? Because that is a dangerous fucking distortion.
No. I wouldn't have been saying Icarus for that reason.
Right.
I'm actually far more cautious than most people would believe. Mm-hmm. I err on the side of caution.
You're tactical.
I'm very tactical with all of my life. Even the security I organize, the places I stay, where I go, I'm extremely tactical. I don't believe I'm Superman. I just believe that I do not fail. And because you have no weaknesses, doesn't mean you can't lose, right? You can be strong in all realms and still lose. Mm-hmm. There are world champion boxers who have no weakness. They do everything right and they lose fights, right? So I'm not saying I'm invincible. I'm just saying if you ask me to name my weakness, I can't think of one.
What should we ask the guys?
Sure. You can ask people around me. I would love to hear it. And I guess I can tell you what people say about me.
Well, actually, that's a good question. Do you feel like you get, I mean, I guess Tristan, but do you get honest reflection? Can you trust the reflection? Because, you know, you're at the center of this kind of empire and you have all of these friends. Yeah. But can you trust the information that's coming to you from anyone? Because everybody's, I mean, I'm here in some way for my own self-interest, right? Yeah. And the fact that you trust me was interesting to me. You let me in your house. So I assume that you have some kind of instinct about it. Yeah. But that must be hard, like, to trust.
I get a lot of feedback, and it all goes into a big pile, and I listen to every word that's said to me. I'm not the person who's beyond reproach. Everyone I work with, a lot of people have said things to me, and I'm told about myself quite often. Yeah. And I put it all in a pile, and I analyze every single word carefully. I ignore most of it, but I do listen to it. And I guess the number one bad or negative thing that people will say about me who know me is they may say I'm very insensitive. I hear that sometimes, usually from women.
You're insensitive.
I'm insensitive because I think once you become a ruthless problem solver, you come across to a degree as insensitive. We have this big issue and everyone's crying. Okay, stop crying, fix the issue.
Right.
You have to be insensitive. Okay, what are you crying about? Let's fix that.
Right. Well, you know that's wrong.
Well, a lot of people want to vent. They don't want to fix the problem. They want to cry.
Well, they just need you to be with them and say, I understand, and here you are,
exactly.
baby, I love you.
Completely.
You're rolling your eyes.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. So when you become a ruthless problem solver, you become to a degree insensitive. Now, there are some scenarios which that doesn't work, right? There's some problems you can't fix. The death of a loved one, that's different.
Yeah.
But if people are crying about something which is very fixable, it's very difficult for me to be interested in their crying. And I'll tell you why. Because if I have a set standard for myself, if I wouldn't allow myself that luxury, it's very hard for me to give it out to everybody else. If I don't allow myself the luxury of being incompetent because of an emotion, then it's very hard for me to look at others and go, well, you're allowed to be incompetent because of your emotions, and you're allowed to be incompetent because of your emotions, and I'll just deal with the struggle of never being incompetent ever, regardless of how I feel. If I have standard for myself, I'm going to implore my standard or imply my standard on others. And if they don't meet that standard, then they're going to call me insensitive.
What would you have to give up to become more sensitive, particularly to your women?
I'm a very sensitive, romantic, nice man.
Yeah.
In general, I'm actually a romantic man. I get called that a lot. No one calls me cold.
Right.
It's different.
You're loving?
Completely. But when it comes to problems especially, I can be insensitive.
You default to problem solving.
Absolutely.
And that's not what they want.
What's the issue?
They want you to just understand and hold them.
They want to cry about the problem a while. And time is time is money. Time is money. I'm like, okay, yeah. Boom, boom, fixed. Right. No, but you don't understand. Da, da, da. I do understand. Now it's fixed. Shh. Next. Like, I think that's just competence. And I think that's genuinely, I think most men are kind of like that. Perhaps I'm just hyper like that.
Yes.
So I get called insensitive sometimes. What else do people say negative about me? This is interesting.
Are you arrogant?
Well, the difference between arrogance and reality is just competence, isn't it?
Say that again?
The difference between arrogance and a healthy grasp of reality is only going to be the competence of an individual.
That's one way of looking at it. But
if I can kick the fuck out of everybody, for example, and I say I can kick the fuck out of everybody, am I arrogant?
Not necessarily. It depends on the kind of energy of it, right? But I mean, one might say that arrogance hides insecurity. Like, are there places where you're insecure?
That's another very good question, but let me think about this for a second and answer it, because these are questions I've never been asked before. But I don't, okay, so what am I insecure about? This is another point, and maybe this is a personality characteristic, which is interesting. I don't do anything I'm bad at ever.
Oh, like sing?
Yeah, like sing. I cannot sing, so I will not sing.
And I'd love to hear you sing.
I'm sure you wouldn't. But maybe that once again shapes my reality, because I refuse to do anything I am bad at. If I'm bad at it, I hire someone else to do it, or I find someone else who's good at it, and I offer value to them to do it. I don't do my entire reality.
Why? Because you don't want to, I mean, there's the things you're incompetent in and you have time, but like, because you're scared to look foolish or not be good at something, and people are going to see, oh, Tate's not so great at everything.
No, I don't think it's emotional. I think it's purely logical. I'm thinking about my day. Every single thing I do are the things I am absolute best at. if I'll put boxing gloves on after this and I'll go fight and I'll beat everybody. I'll destroy everyone. And I think I only enjoy things that I'm good at.